And welcome back to Coast with our special guest tonight, David Sereda. And we'll talk more about his harmonic codes on Coast to Coast AM. And we're with David Sereda, new ebook out, by the way, Differentials and the Hidden Harmonic Codes of the Universe. We're talking about that tonight. David, the harmonic codes, why were they hidden?
Well, they're hidden basically just from our knowledge. I think I was deeply inspired by Nikola Tesla to find out why there were these precise, what he called stationary waves that in the Earth itself and all, energetic forms, including the sun and the other planets, that they were kind of like, for example, imagine that, here I am, I'm trying to listen to George Noory in Sedona, and you're on 780 kilohertz, which is a frequency. But if I go to 782, I just get white noise.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it kind of like that. Now, a harmonic code is something beyond a frequency. It's a set of frequencies in tandem that if you tune into that, instead of I get George Noory at 780 kilohertz in Sedona, if I tune into this harmonic code, what's going to happen? And so think of if the Earth and actually the positioning of the pyramids at Cairo, Egypt, at Gaza, is a particular harmonic code for that location on the ovaloid shape of the Earth, and that Orion's belt has its own particular harmonic code, which I'll show you in a moment here, is it possible that if I activated these giant quantum resonators with actual energy from the capstones of the pyramids, would I create a stargate between here and there? Because if I know the code of that location in Orion's belt, will it take me there? And here's where it gets really interesting, because when you do, ratio math is very simple. It's just division. You take one distance and you divide it into the next, and you do it, forward and backwards, and you get numbers, and these numbers represent codes. So I measured in a very large-scale model from NASA directly above the three pyramids, from the main pyramid, the Great Pyramid, which is A, to B, the second, Great Pyramid, the second largest one, and I get a ratio of, and then I measure from that to the third, the Little Pyramid, and my ratio is 21 to 22. So you take the number 22 and divide it by 21, and you get 1.0476. So that represents a 1. But when you divide 21 by 22, you get 0.95454545454, which is amazing when you consider the possibilities of all the random kind of numbers you would get. Why am I getting this beautiful harmony? And when you add 5 and 4 together, which are infinites, they turn into 9. So you get this 9 harmonic ratio. What does that mean? Well, what's really amazing about perspectives in the universe, when you look at anything beyond a single point, as soon as you look at 2 points or 3 points in the case of the pyramids, from any different angle or location, it's going to look different. And those ratios would be different if I was looking at the Great Pyramids from another location, on the horizon. Their ratios would appear different. It's the same when you look at the star system of Orion. The three stars are unique in their ratio distances from each other in a three-dimensional universe versus a flat page, which is only 2 dimensions. The actual ratio of looking at Orion from Earth is only unique to Earth itself. If you were on another planet, it's going to look different. So if you produce a resonator with these giant pieces of stone and you run electricity through this, clockwise and counterclockwise, from the capstone, I actually believe on the capstone it wasn't just copper. And if you remember some of those images in Egypt of the giant, they look like light bulbs with filaments in them, and the guys, the ancient Egyptian is holding it.
Yeah.
You remember seeing those?
Oh, absolutely. Incredible.
Incredible. They actually remind me of kind of Tesla-type technology. And it makes me believe they actually had electricity. Well, from the capstone, using gold or copper or any conductor metal, I've done this with small stones and I know this works. The amplification of the energy multiplies by a factor of 10 or 100. It's amazing. So if they did that and they produced a resonance in the exact harmonic code of the Earth itself in the pyramid, the exact location, and the harmonic code of the relationship between looking at Orion's belt from Earth, what would happen? And I can only guess that knowing, going back to my earlier work on singularity, that if we go to the non-dual place in the universe discovered by physicist Paul Dirac, that if you can go into non-duality, you can move anywhere in the universe in zero time, and then if you produce this code, it will spit you back out in exactly that location, instantaneously. And this was confirmed by Paul Dirac, that the singularity, there's no resistance to movement in the singularity. In fact, it explains Einstein's communication through action at a distance.
All right, Dave, I want you to paint me a picture for a moment on the pyramids. Before they're constructed, information passed down from above to, gosh, who knows here. But explain the procedure. What do you think happened?
Well, what I think happened when I look at this math is I don't think humans really did this. I don't believe the blocks were lifted, manually, using, rollers. I think what appears to be, from a human perspective, an accident in the square sides, and even the angles have a harmonic code. I've measured all of the harmonic codes on the pyramids. They're mismatched not by accident, just like a natural six-sided crystal is not an accident that the sides are not all equal. And I believe that there's no way they could know the harmonic code of Earth, meaning the differential between, as we described earlier, between pole to pole and equator, unless they were coming from space. And so I believe this builds the strongest mathematical case that they were actually built by extraterrestrials, because we know the math didn't arrive on the scene until the Greeks to even give a rough estimation of the circumference of the Earth. So I actually believe they were made by those extraterrestrials to create a stargate between Earth and that star system. And I've read the entire Tibetan Book of the Dead. And in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they believe that when the pharaohs were placed in, for example, in the king's chamber and the queen's chamber, they would ride on a boat to Orion. Now, that's really interesting. Ride on a boat to Orion. Now, we could take that to mean, out of body or spiritually. And that, I think there's three possibilities for the pyramids and why they were built. A stargate doesn't necessarily mean moving something physically, but considering Einstein's action at a distance and that mental telepathy has been measured to be instantaneous, not the speed of light on a cell phone, instantaneous regardless of distance. If you were broadcasting, and I'm actually going to do this, George, I'm actually going to broadcast a message to a particular star system through not a radio station, a harmonic code transmitter.
You're going to be your own SETI, but in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, this is where this conversation is going to get really interesting, because I believe if SETI made receiver antennas in harmonic code ratios to particular star systems, which I can easily, teach in my book, The Hidden Harmonic Code, that teaches you how to do the math on any harmonic code you want to figure out. But imagine instead of broadcasting a frequency, I broadcast the harmonic code of Orion. Am I going to be able to send a message there instantaneously through the singularity? I think yes. And in fact, now if I build a receiver antenna that's in a harmonic code, and they're all the receivers are working together in tandem, I'm going to be able to receive a message from that particular star system instantaneously through action at a distance, faster than radio. And that has to be tested. Now, whether the pyramids could move a physical object, a pharaoh in a boat, as the Tibetan Book of the Dead says, through that stargate, well, considering the amount of stone and how much energy it's going to produce and the harmonics it's going to produce, I think there's a really good chance a physical object could move through that paradigm.
That would be incredible, David.
It would be incredible, and I'm actually going to be able to test this on a small scale. It's not that expensive to do this, to actually build a harmonic transmitter to a particular star system.
Show us with words what your laboratory consists of.
Well, I mean, because the technology is proprietary, I can give you kind of a picture. I have a completely new, a basic Tesla coil is just copper wire round in a circle on a cylinder. And you can, for example, attach that whole coil to the output of your speakers, for example, your speakers on your stereo system, and you play a song, you'll actually broadcast on a radio wave that song. That's how a radio